Since the fall of man, after the Great Deluge, the human race has been in total disharmony on every level that you could possibly imagine by design. Knowledge has been taken away from the masses and given to a very select few. In the 1960s, spiritual leaders, priests, and some secret society organizations from around the world decided in unison to lift the veil of secrecy and to shine light back into the darkness of ignorance. Time to give it back. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is knowing where the ledge is so you don't fall down. The pyramid at Saqqara was the first to be built in Egypt. When it was first created, it was covered with glorious white stones. The whole city stretches for miles and goes deep into the earth for hundreds of feet, including buildings and complexes under the ground. Imagine seeing it when it was brand new. The Egyptians have taken almost all these pyramids that approach or exceed 6,000 years of age and put military bases with huge electrical fences around them. In some cases, soldiers are on guard with machine guns. If you try to approach these pyramids, they would probably try to kill you. They don't want anyone to know about these pyramids, and they especially don't want you to examine them. What secrets are they hiding? The secret of world languages are in some of these guarded pyramids. As discussed in the Holographic Disclosure series, language is one big sigil and is one of the tools of control employed by the Cabal. All language slowly evolved on purpose so as not to get the symbolism too powerful. English being the most recent and the most powerful. All language is corruptible. That's because the intent is linked to multiple meanings, using close-sounding words and spelling that can vibrate in the same harmonic frequencies to redirect our energy into their creations. Through subliminal messaging and suggestion, they were able to control the flow of energy. This is because astral energy seeks the easiest way out. Like attracts like, and how these workings are like a domino effect. Once something is set into motion on the astral, the energies put into motion seek out like energies and things tie in. Wordplay that sounds absolutely silly to us also vibrates in a similar fashion. This reveals that this is not a random act, but a dead giveaway that this was an occult working, which was deliberate. Unfortunately, most people do not have the intelligence or the strength of character to delve into the occult. Language was channeled by the ancients from demonic thinking entities that entered our universe after the experiment that caused the deluge, which resulted in the fall of man. The experiment was secretly codenamed in modern times the Octagon Experiment. Other findings were sigils, archetypes, and runes, which the ancients used to program and change reality. As we have now discovered, sacred geometry is the root of all language in the universe. This pyramid is called Leverit, which is at least 500 years older than Saqqara. It is one of the few unguarded pyramids in this category. There are quite a few of these stepped pyramids, called mastabas. The stones that covered this pyramid, like the slanting ones shown, weigh between 60 to 80 tons apiece. On top of a block beside the base was a circle with the Star of David, the key to the Merkaba experience. What's the Star of David doing in Egypt? In Samaria? In India? In fact, what's the Star of David doing in Rome? Our true history, which has suffered 2,000 years of corruption. It will not take that long to expose those lies that we hold as truths today. What will take time is the rebuilding of the belief structures of this planet as we begin to realize the enormity of the knowledge held by our ancient ancestors, one that was so cruelly taken from us. As discussed earlier, the Hebrews were not a race of people as once thought. They were a Semitic and Asiatic class of foreign workers who migrated into Egypt from neighboring lands to find work as craftsmen and builders. In the later dynasties of Egypt, as their population exceeded over hundreds of years, they contributed to Egyptian technology, worshipped Egyptian gods, and intermarried into Egyptian nobility. They worshipped Egyptian gods and violated Hebrew laws to keep the secret even from their fellow Hebrews. The Egyptian people forced the Hebrew Hyksos kings out of Egypt. The only way the Hebrews could still rule Egypt was to hide their Hebrew identity from the Egyptian people by changing their names to Egyptian names and intermarrying into royalty. By marrying into these Egyptian bloodlines, they gained the original Kabbalistic knowledge. The descendants of these bloodlines through the millennium have left oceans of blood through wars, sacrifice, murder, and their trademark of lying, cheating, and stealing. They have colonized and enslaved the world till this very day. They have accumulated so much wealth running their lucrative businesses. This is where the money families came from and continued throughout all the empires, including the Roman Empire, which inherited the system. The exact same fictional construct, with all its outrageous fake democracy, its third-party debt collecting, and its Christ-like prophets' teachings of compassion and miracles, which were taken from past saviors like the Egyptian Osiris, Horus, and from the Greeks, Zeus. In fact, the fictional Nazarene is a concept from some 20-plus crucified pagan gods who hung from a tree, such as Odin. The Roman Empire lost the favor of the public, but like a clever leopard changes its spots, that is essentially what the Caesars did. They remolded themselves into a holy Roman Empire. They wrapped themselves in the bunting of the Christian teachings, rewrote and re-edited many fables and pagan beliefs, which became the Bible, and re-emerged as a geopolitical force, eventually establishing the microstate, the Vatican City. By the 11th century, the Holy Roman Empire had fooled millions of Europeans that their spiritual salvation was with the Vatican. To this very day, the Egyptian pharaonic bloodlines are still ruling the world. They eventually formed Switzerland, the safe haven for these pharaohs, which is conveniently a neutral sovereign state. Little do the public know that from Switzerland they run the whole show and control worldwide events. Worldwide, you see the Egyptian pharaoh's obelisk, the old phallic symbol. The white and red houses of the latter part of Egypt's first dynasty were departments that officiated for the will of the pharaoh. The second most important state building in Egypt was the treasury. It was known as Per-Hetch, meaning White House. Here, the hand of Akhenaton, holding an olive sprig with leaves and berries. Here, we see the circular rug inside the Oval Office. In the center of the rug, we see the sun with emanating rays. Around the edges, we see what appear to be olive sprigs with berries, as also appear on the seal. The circular design is very important for astrological reasons. The Swiss Guard is assigned with looking after the Vatican. The Vatican is their most lucrative business, and all with the help of black magic. They believe in God, but their God is gold, opium, and diamonds. Mind control, be it by dogmatic or paranormal means, has the potential of the human psyche to generate altered states. It's only a matter of which drug is used. Isn't religion the opium of the masses? Any organized religion that follows a dogma, don't trust them. And by consequence, most have a hidden agenda that has nothing to do with saving souls, only controlling them. Religion, from its very inception, was and is nothing more than a program. The agenda of this program is for the destruction of the Western and European races using occult powers, and for the eventual enslavement of all remaining races with the top cabal in total control. The pharaonic cabal follow no mainstream religions and use everybody like pawns in a game of chess. This cabal create factions such as, for example, religion. They finance them, nurture them, play them off each other in a game of divide and conquer, then sacrifice them when the game changes. The cabal hold no moral codes, no justifications, and no loyalties with anyone, not even with their own kind. Like a pack of wild wolves, they work together to bring in the prey when plentiful, but when the prey is in short supply, they turn on each other, fight and bicker amongst each other for dominance over the domain. The only thing they all have in common is keeping one oath alive through the ages between each other to keep the masses in ignorance, in slavery, in poverty, and in sexual deprivation. But most of them keep them living in fear and division. According to the almanac of European nobility, known as the Semi-Gotha, the Pope that financed and completed the construction of St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican, inscribed the family name Borghese over the main entrance and established the first Bank of Europe was of Jewish nobility. Man, in his strife to ensure survival in an adverse and difficult world, has fabricated various convictions about creation, which has been hidden from him by a small group. The Vatican Library has vacuum-sealed vaults containing thousands upon thousands of ancient esoteric books from around the world that have been stolen and hoarded over the years and kept out of public circulation. The Vatican holds many dark secrets. One of these secrets is the hex placed on humanity after the fall of mankind onto the mother woman. That hex manifested as labor pains of birth. Watch Secret Space Secret Past to make this connection. There are many hexes placed on humanity. Another dark secret is the Papal Bull, which is a formal document issued by a Roman death cult pontiff upon a major act of law, curse, or claim to extend the power of the cult over its claimed domination of the world, all nations, all people, all law, and all religions. All legitimate papal bulls were issued on human skin, usually the skin of a sacrificed child or some famous heretic by a dark sorcerer. There is a secret cabal that goes back thousands of years. The cabal has always had a much higher level of knowledge and knew a lot more compared to what the majority is aware of. When new societies or political factions were formed, then established, the cabal would overthrow and remove anyone in a high position of power to ensure that any advanced knowledge was removed from the public domain and into their secret societies. Whenever they took control of a country or region, the ancient spiritual texts and historical records were destroyed. New ones were created in order to disconnect humanity from its true origins and take control of their minds. Aryan priests and spiritual leaders such as the Druids were tortured to death. Those who had spiritual knowledge were mass murdered by the Inquisition. The witch trials in Germany killed the people of the white race in huge numbers, all with the intention of deleting the original history and rewriting a false history. The Nazarene and other fictitious religious models subconsciously create a powerful association with what is referred to as the God part of the brain. What happens is that the act of worship, which is energy, gets transferred and used, as we shall see later. Most people are unaware of the true nature of this game, which is to use various religions to separate people from the source. They make us believe that God is external, and reinforce this by using the savior programs to reinforce this. Prayer energy. The prayer energy in this world is beyond imagination. If a person is obsessed on an idea, then that generates thought energy. Now imagine what will happen if millions of people fixate on one idea. Thoughts become things. Human energy is most powerful when in great fear, usually when facing death or when dying. Fear effectively controls the world. That is why there has to be wars. The more violent, the more powerful. All the power needed to accomplish the job is in the sermons that are full of emotions and lies, as well as the mantras that endlessly repeat the doctrines. With the energy of the ignorant congregation and ignorant worshippers, the constant and powerful energy is manipulated by enemy adepts to control the world and let the people suffer eternal punishment. Subliminal messaging, hypnotic suggestions, sigils, archetypes, and wordplay programs the subconscious mind, and we create the reality they want us to experience. We also know for a fact that archetypes and sacred geometry also occurs in nature. It's all illusion. All you need to understand beyond this is that morphic resonance, or the hive mind, creates reality as a consensus of our mutual opinions of what it is. Change opinions and reality changes right along with it. Our masters run that game for now, but opinion is becoming better informed. The mass mind is very powerful. The subconscious mind creates this 3D reality through subliminal suggestion. All of this has directly affected each and every one of us. Humanity has suffered unnecessarily because of the denial of this knowledge. People have been coerced over the centuries into paying for their own damnation to the tune of billions and billions of dollars to keep this lie prospering and continuing strong. The survival and prosperity of this vicious hoax on humanity requires only one thing: a lack of knowledge. A masterful job has been done to get humanity to this level of spiritual weakness and complete ignorance. These so-called religions are built upon murder, torture, and lies, and the only way any lie of this magnitude can survive is to create more and more lies and destroy the peoples who know the truth. Religion is nothing more than a program. There is nothing religious or spiritual about it. That is why millions of people suffer depression, hopelessness, and confusion about life. The Bible. To really understand the Bible and see the truth, one must be very well educated in the occult. Most of the legends of the gods are allegories. Everything you read in the Christian Judeo-Bible was taken from the pagan religion, which predates Judaism for hundreds and even thousands of years. By forcing people to believe that these parables are real characters and real places, the Vatican was able to acquire wealth, power, and control. The Bible is used as a very powerful tool, full of parables with subliminal messages and occult numbers taken and corrupted from ancient religions. In order to make the Bible believable and instill fear in people, it has been infused with psychic power and energy. If someone who has the necessary knowledge really opens his eyes, the spell will be broken. The entire underlying theme of the Judeo-Christian Bible is the establishment of the fictitious history of the chosen people in the mass mind. This is forcibly drummed into the minds of Gentiles and non-Gentiles from day one, creating a powerful subliminal thought form which is manifested into reality. What the mass mind believes has power and the energy to make manifest in reality as thoughts are energy. The Bible of today is like a watered-down version of Star Wars without the Force. C-3PO and no Luke Skywalker. You're just left with the Death Star and the damnation heralded by Darth Vader. It is this supernatural force and knowledge of how it works and what the creative energy is, which is responsible for the universe, such as the Essenes, the knowledge of the Force, and the invisible, mystical powers beyond the outer rim of the universe. The creative power of the Godhead, which is essentially what Gnosticism focuses on. The true pagan Christian doctrines remaining are hidden in the Vatican archives. The Druid's Bible, the world's most mysterious book. Just yards away from the HQ of the Skull and Bones fraternity on the campus of Yale University is a small book kept under immense security. The best cryptographers, mathematicians, and linguists in the world all failed to decipher this book. To be able to understand this book of magic, one needs to have training in magic and knowledge of the spiritual world. This small book is written in codes and used a language similar to the pre-medieval Slovakian. There are spells and incantations to channel the occult energies of planets and stars to achieve power and enlightenment through the use of herbal potions. Do you now understand why all teacher plants, roots and fungi are made illegal? The Yale Treasure is just one of the few books written in codes before 1525. It is believed to be written between 1404 and 1438. Though it is just a copy, not a single part of the vellum is scratched to make way for a correction. A team of NSA cipher experts also tried their luck in the early 1950s. One must be a druid to be able to decipher the secret code and understand this book. Kabbalah. The word Kabbalah, which is not Judaic in origin, is a modification of the word Ka-ba-ank. The Kabbalah was inherited from the Egyptians and modified by the Kabbalistic descendants. A lot of people are not familiar with the Egyptian Kabbalah. The true Kabbalah teaches very powerful four-dimensional meditations where specific chants, tones, and vibrations are applied to various aspects of the soul. The runes used are based on the constellations and are very close to the original writing our ancestors passed on to us. The script used is also very similar to the shape of ancient cuneiform letters. Each letter line connects to a specific shape, like the planets of the constellation. This is just a brief summary of the complex instructions that require much study. The runic Kabbalah, which is the key to using the runes, was lost. The penalty for possessing or using the script was death, and the Druids were killed for extensively using the runic Kabbalah. All spiritual knowledge was removed and destroyed. All that is left in public circulation are desecrated, corrupted, and defiled remnants of sacred knowledge. Infiltration. All occult societies were later infiltrated. Just as Christianity replaced the original religions, the Cabal pushed Hebrew letters and mysticism on secret societies. This replaced the original runes and teachings. You will see later exactly why this was done. YHVH, aka Yahweh, Jehovah, is nothing more than a system of magic. YHVH, known as the Tetragrammaton, represents the four corners and elements, as does INRI, along with the four Gospels. These represent the four corners of magic and the four elements that are so important in any magical working. The cross is a symbol representing dense matter. Each point of the cross corresponds to one of its four elements: water, fire, air, and earth. These four elements are the nails that crucify the unified man. Pinned down onto his material body or cross, man awaits patiently for the time when his unified spirit will abandon the material world in order to enter the regions of the higher mental plane. Is it then possible that the case of the mystic Hitler, who through the Tibetan monks came in contact with the Vril power and the teachings of the masters of subthonic Shambhala, Agartha, was nothing more than another unsuccessful attempt for the creation of united Europe? After all, the alternating positive and negative power of this world belongs to one of two faces of one and the same coin. Some careful observers might have noticed the SS cross placed on their uniforms near the energy center of the throat, and the resemblance it bears to the cross of Saint-Germain-Malta's cross. On the walls of the Christian catacombs in Rome, the symbol of the swastika appears next to the words Zotico Zotico, which means life of life. It can also be found on the window openings of the mysterious Lalibela rock churches of Ethiopia and in various other churches around the world. The Cabal reversed and inverted a lot of meanings. The Virgin Mary replaced Ashtoreth. The Moses legend was taken from Sargon. Both were born in secrecy, left in a reed basket to float down the river and adopted by royalty. And Abraham was taken from Hindu Brahma. Brahma in Sanskrit means many. The endless list goes on and on. Remember, the word Satan equals knowledge or enlightenment. This is known in the inner occult circles. Satan is also derived from the word Saturn. Satan in Hebrew means the enemy or adversary. Satan in Sanskrit means truth. Let's do this one more time. Shaitan is the Arabic word for Satan, meaning knowledge. Did you understand that? I said the Arabic word equivalent to Satan in Hebrew. Saitan in Arabic, meaning astray or distant, sometimes the devil. This is why mind control programs involved in sacrifice and other perverted programs incorporate the devil and Satan, so the participants and general public steer away from the occult. Interesting to note, Henry Ford named his automobile models Model A, N, S. Model T stopped, and they began to produce another car called, now get this, the Model A again. So what really gives here? Those letters A, N, S, T, A. When rearranged to portray the real intent, which spells Satan. Henry Ford made a ton of money selling supplies to the Nazis in World War II. Knowledge is the enemy of man. Everything is energy. The illuminated Cabal view everything as energy and the way energy flows. This must be thoroughly understood. This is the Kabbalistic manipulation of energy. Christian churches were constructed on ley lines. Areas on Earth that have increased geomagnetic energy in order to increase the energy for their program, to sharpen our thoughts for stronger electrical output, and to affect the environment. If a knowledgeable person uses Earth energy and thought energy, it amplifies the energy behind the thoughts through will. Christian churches were constructed to replace the pagan temples that were destroyed. Special rituals were performed at these energy crossings in the earth. Humans and animals were sacrificed to instill extreme fear in the victims. The fear energy that they used for control was pumped into these vortexes of earth energies. This energy is magnified thousands of times and causes vibrations within the earth field encircling the earth like a spider web. This is the very reason why Christianity has a huge influence on a lot of people. Sports arenas are also built on these energy lines to harness the energies. The highest levels of the Cabal have also built some of their castles on these lines. Control and manipulating reality through the most powerful manipulation tool of all, our sexuality. Society is now facing two problems: sexual suppression and hypersexuality. As discussed in Disclosure 5, a sex-mad man or woman is no different from an alcoholic or drug addict. Both have lost the facility over their mind and will eventually destroy their vital organs. The Cabal-run media and the Cabal-run pornographic industry are over-sexualizing men, women, and especially young children to turn them into sex zombies, to destroy their creativity, when overindulgence becomes an uncontrollable addiction. The master will know how to convert sexual energy into creational energy. A balance must be obtained, and the use of sexual energies mastered. Sexual orgasm is the doorway to the power and advancement of the soul. It is the creative life force that liberates the Kundalini and is a direct threat to their agenda for enslaving humanity. By suppressing the second chakra, which is the sexual chakra, which keeps the Kundalini serpent bound in the base. In order for the Kundalini energy to ascend, and ascend safely, all of the chakras must be free and open. Because of the cutoff, there is no outlet, and humanity degenerates spiritually from generation to generation. Through the centuries, religious doctrines have always worked relentlessly to suppress it and drum it into its victims' minds that they are nothing more than property. Their minds, souls, and bodies all belong to their false gods, which in reality are the top ruling Cabal, who are masters of occult power. For centuries, the Church has denied and kept this knowledge from the people. We are talking about high-ranking officials, not your typical average priest or minister, who have been indoctrinated into ignorance and blind obedience. Suppressing the powerful sex drive in these institutions, which is the life force itself, results in child molestation and rape. As part of the plan, it is important for the enemy to destroy this feminine energy, because once this feminine energy is completely passive, the intuition and higher consciousness are switched off and become dominated by the lower consciousness. The chakra below the heart is the switch-off point that disconnects all the 7 chakras. This could lead to a serious imbalance, which the Church and its supporters are fully aware of. A lot of people, including 2 billion Catholics, might not be aware of a page on Wikipedia entitled VatiLeaks. These are very interesting documents, much more interesting than anything released by Mr. Assange's group. Leading up to the 2009 investigation into the global pedophile ring led by the Legionnaires of Christ, the Vatican has paid vast payouts in various court settlements. Just in the United States alone, sexual abuse by Roman Catholic priests has cost the U.S. branch of the Vatican more than $1.5 billion since the 1950s. The United States religious establishment as a whole is valued at $102 billion. Confessions of sins. The confession of sins was set up by the church to extract information on mainly important people in a society or group. They now know exclusive private secrets about them, which they could later use to hold against or bribe them in the future. The Jesuit religious order in the Catholic Church was roughly equivalent to the KGB in the Soviet Union. Their goal is the destruction of the Protestant Reformation, leading to a return of one black pope sitting in judgment on all mankind. Bloodline families. We also need to recognize these bloodline families who are controlling the human race, such as the Habsburgs, House of Lorraine, de Medici, Lee, Astor, Onassis, Kennedy, Russell, Thurmond, Taxis, Dupont, and the Van Duns. Also, some extremely powerful families affiliated with the major top 13 families include Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Bundy, Disney, Collins, Freeman, Reynolds, Krupp, McDonald's, the Harrimans, Tafts, Lords, Kellogg's, Goodyear, Whitney, Vanderbilt, Sloan's, Perkins, and the Bushes. All these families are mainly agents to the real power families who remain hidden. There is a lot of confusion concerning Freemasonry, the New World Order, the United States. The reason for the confusion is because of infiltration. The original Freemasons were mainly responsible for establishing the United States of America, designing Washington, D.C., and many other U.S. cities where the architecture is specially designed and geographically arranged for a future goal, using occult knowledge, had a completely different idea of a new world order. This new world order that our founding fathers, whom were almost all respectable Freemasons, had in mind, was based upon true Luciferian principles. Remember, they corrupted and turned everything upside down and inside out. The goals of our forefathers, NWO, were to establish a free country where citizens could escape the severe repression of Christianity and learn the ancient secrets of the past for themselves without any fear of losing their lives. The United States was to be the new Atlantis and was meant to set a precedent for other nations of the world to follow in regards to spiritual knowledge, and to establish a free nation where each individual could become the best he or she could be. The other goals of this New World Order can be found in the original doctrines of the United States. Now, what's going on today with the present-day NWO is another story. In the U.S., it seems that George Washington was intelligent enough to recognize that this Illuminati sect, the coven hell-bent on chaos and creating a new world order which had been funded by the Duke of Coburg's family and friends, was not to the liking of George Washington. George Washington was also a Freemason. He attained his third and final degree at Fredericksburg Lodge, Virginia in 1753. The cabal infiltrate every source of power they can. From the inside, they either gain total control or they seek to rot it out and destroy it through corruption. The NWO is a world slave state headed and run by these corrupt oligarchs. This NWO is the exact opposite of what was intended by the original Freemasons. Let's clear the air on these so-called Illuminati. Illuminati is basically a name given to anyone illuminated with occult knowledge. There are over 800 secret societies worldwide. The most publicized, and for good reason, was the Illuminati. The Sabbatian, Frankists, also referred to as the cult of the all-seeing eye, are political and religious chameleons. They are everywhere, where there is power. They are the good guys and the bad guys. The Rothschilds' goal is to control the wealth of the planet, and the Frankist vision is the destruction of Jewish ethics, to be replaced by a religion based on the exact opposite of their so-called God's intentions. According to Canadian-born author and mystic Manly P. Hall, Rothschild had hired a son of a rabbi named Adam Weishaupt to create a pseudo-Masonic-looking front, the Illuminati, and then armed him with massive funds and contacts. The stage was now set. History records that on May 1st, 1776, Dr. Adam Weishaupt founded the Bavarian Order of the Illuminati. He later became a high-ranking member of the Order of the Jesuits, whom he subsequently left to form his very own organization at the clear behest of the newly formed House of Rothschild. It was the Weishaupt's belief that only a chosen few could qualify for enough illumination to guide and rule the world. The problem was, where could he find enough intellectual light-bearers to start the ball rolling? He subsequently found them in various lodges and orders of the day, such as the various Masonic lodges, the Rosicrucian Order, and other legitimate and sincere orders of antiquity. This is confirmed yet again by Edith Starr Miller in her classic Occult Theocracy. As the organization of the Illuminati developed, so did its ambitions, which ended in a plot to subvert Freemasonry to its aim of world domination by any and all means. After obtaining control of certain Masonic lodges, Weishaupt and his associates recklessly vaunted their growing power. Weishaupt's vision for a future world was a full-on communism, with all possessions, even children, held in common. It is more interesting to learn that Karl Marx, whose real name was Rabbi Mordecai Levi, was not the real founder of the communism world revolution. Its true father was Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Order of the Illuminati. It was not long afterwards that the Illuminati membership included an abundance of oligarch banking families, including the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, the Wertheimers, the Schusters, the Speyers, and Stearns. The first order of business for the Illuminati initiates was to manifest their prophesied Zion. Plans were set in motion for them to finally have their land of milk and honey. The opportunity for manifesting their Zion arrived with the Russian Revolution, which was financed by these oligarch bankers. The Bolshevik leader of the revolution, Lenin, contributed his plan for a centralized government that would be controlled by this oligarchy. After Lenin and his Illuminati cohorts raised their flags at the end of the Russian Revolution, their new communist government emerged with these oligarchs occupying at least 75% of its highest positions. 60 million Christians were murdered, many of them murdered in an organized system of camps run by these oligarchs. The Rothschilds secretly financed groups of people to sail around to the many islands and offload many books on voodoo teachings and to promote Satanism based on ritual sacrifice. This was nothing more than a mind control program, which was a fabrication and corrupt form of voodoo and Satanism. Today, they still practice this sick, twisted form of voodoo and sacrifice which has brought poverty and sickness to the people of these islands. By cutting a people off from their heritage, their customs, their culture, and replacing it with anti-life destructive lies, this is a giant step to genocide. The Rothschilds were involved not only with banking, but also with the international drug trade as well, which began in 1606. The Queen of England, Elizabeth I, allowed the illegal opium trafficking from India to China. The shipping company in India profited a lot, not just from drug trafficking, but from slave trafficking as well. During the 1880s, the Sassoon family, who became the Rothschild of the Far East, was granted opium monopoly rights because Britain wanted to distance itself from the drug trade. David Sassoon was the agent who shared what he profited from with Queen Victoria. When hundreds of chestloads of addictive drugs were destroyed and opium was banned in China, Sassoon and Britain retaliated by stealing and making the island of Hong Kong the British international drug trade and forcing the entire nation into drug addiction. Albert Sassoon, the son of David Sassoon, was the one who spread the illegal opium trade in China and Japan and was then knighted by Queen Victoria in 1872. When Sir Albert Sassoon married Aline Caroline Rothschild in 1887, the pirated fortunes of the Sassoon drug cartel and the Rothschild banking money cartel both joined forces together. Today, nothing has changed. It's business as usual for these bloodline descendants, running their billion-dollar opium trade off Afghanistan. Halfway around the world, Samuel Russell, from the same opium smuggling syndicate, used drug money and founded the Skull and Bones Brotherhood in Yale University. They financed exclusive members into political power positions in the U.S. Supreme Court, the White House, which is the biggest whorehouse in the country, and the CIA, where George Bush became the CIA director. Heroin was smuggled into America inside the body bags of dead American soldiers. By the end of the 1960s, 1/3 of U.S. soldiers in Vietnam and close to 1 million Americans were hooked on heroin. In the 1960s, the CFR had a month-long meeting, and the topic was which country should create the future global culture. They decided that Hollywood would basically create the culture for the world, backed up by the musical industry. The cabal wanted to turn the youth of America onto all these drugs, including LSD and hashish. Celebrity anti-war activists like Aldous Huxley, Timothy Leary, and Bertrand Russell sold American youth on acid rock. Their financing came from the Wahlberg Banksters and IPS, Institute for Policy Studies. Over 100 million dosages of LSD that hit the streets of America were purchased by Timothy Leary and Alan Dulles through the Sandoz Pharmaceutical Company in none other than Switzerland. Switzerland, the country designated as neutral by the royal elite families, the place where they stash their bullion and cash in vaults underneath Zurich Airport's runway. Chemist Dr. Albert Hofmann was hard at work, responsible for synthesizing and isolating the alkaloids of ergot fungus. He eventually managed to manufacture lysergic acid diethylamide, which became known as LSD. Critics of the drug cultures blamed parents, teachers, law enforcement, and just about everybody except the people who were really behind it all, namely the Rothschilds, the Warburg-Banksters, and the Committee of 300. The Tavistock and the Frankfurt Institute, where Theodor Adorno, who is a master at music, understood the complete science and psychology of music that influenced the teenagers and their parents at that time. Music is built on repetition. Repetition is the ideal tool for instilling and implanting subliminal hypnotic suggestion. Repetition, coupled with a state of paranoia, leads to an altered state of consciousness and an illusion-based reality. Theodor Adorno owned the musical rights of the Beatles up until he died. He also taught other musicians these secrets that later became their celebrity salesmen to addict and enslave billions of people worldwide with dependencies on both prescription and non-prescription legal and illegal drugs, which includes alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, Prozac, crack cocaine, and heroin. According to Dr. John Coleman, who wrote the story of the Committee of 300, the Beatles rock group was brought to America by the Tavistock Institute. There were people behind the scenes writing the Beatles material at least when the four were still together. That's right, it's a big secret within the music industry up to this day that there is a big production team behind a lot of these so-called musicians. It's all big business. Everything commercial is staged, but money is not the prime motivation. Its real motives are controlling people's minds and destroying ethics and the moral destruction of the families. At the same time, out came the abortion clinics. They had the pill for women as well. It came out the same time. They also had venereal disease clinics sprouted up for free. This is nothing new. Beethoven was also financed to do experimentations in theaters with certain types of disharmonic music and found it would cause anger and aggression in the audience, and even fights broke out with discordant notes and sounds. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which was distributed throughout every university in Europe by the garbage bagful. It was thrown over university walls from limousines to get it all started. John Lennon in later years knew he was being used and rebelled against the establishment by promoting peace. Unfortunately, he was taken out, along with many, many others, including Morrison, Hendrix, and Michael Jackson. When movie stars, rock stars, and athletes talk, we listen. We think that they are the most important people in the world. That is why they're paid millions of dollars. The public grovel at their feet. The general public are so dumbed down and brainwashed into worshipping elitism instead of knowing the real power they possess, and they are the real stars. Rap music was introduced to dumb down the black communities by design with their destructive lyrics. Aleister Crowley, who worked for MI5 or 6 to help promote all this mind control propaganda agenda to conflict with natural law.
you're managed by the company, and this surprised me, I only found this out, you're managed by the company you look after S Club 7, you used to look after the Spice Girls, Simon Fuller. Have they tried to mould you in any way, though, if people ask you to do things to change the way you look or speak or behave?
Yeah, one of them tried to mould me into a big triangle shape, and I went, no! Nah, you know, I've got my own style. I've got my own style, and I wrote my own songs, and, you know, if someone has so much of something already, there's very little you can add.
I'm offended when I see boy bands, for God's sake. It's a valid offence, I'm offended. They're corporate shills posing as musicians to further a modelling career, and frankly, I'm disgusted. Right?
The headliners, the guy who make Hollywood runs like it does, right? Bring her to the upper penthouse tomorrow. So she thinking she getting ready to sign a contract. No, they want to pop her in her ass. And this is how they get down. They call it gravy.
If you do get hurt, well, that's just gravy.
Now, everybody, other people may know you from Gravy and your music career. Has this sparked the acting bug? Are we gonna see you in a lot more roles following this?
Yeah, definitely. This is my newfound love. Music is my passion, and you know, acting. I'm definitely getting ready to jump into it.
Okay.
That's a Hollywood slogan for people who just got popped in behind. Well, how did it go, man? How's your career going? Oh, I can tell you right now, baby, everything's gravy. There's been a lot of people that's got their letters on the fly, and they read all the literature. They have them in a nice little room or a sweet hotel. It's real elegant. They do it really nice.
House of Wisdom. Esoteric theologist and philosopher Christopher Lord brilliantly exposes the Illuminati Matrix like no one else ever has. Mind-blowing, cutting-edge discoveries that will crush every foundation you stand on. And before you call it crazy, you better do your research, because you don't want to have to pull your foot out of your mouth later. Remember, truth is stranger than fiction. Stranger than fiction.
Sir William Crookes was a highly respected physicist and member of the Golden Dawn and the Society for Psychical Research. He was a pioneer of vacuum tubes, inventing the Crookes tube, which was made in 1875. Crookes believed spirits in the ether can move electrons and protons. The cathode ray tube, which fires billions of electrons at a glass screen covered in phosphorus. The cathode ray tube is the most important part of television, which was devised 40 years later by John Logie Baird, an invention that would enslave, program, and hypnotize billions of people worldwide. The elite's plan was simple: to buy all the worldwide media, which now consists of only 6 corporations, to control and program the masses, and change reality to that of a chosen reality, devised by the think tanks employed by the cabal. Knowing the secret, that reality can be manifested by suggestion, subliminal programming, and archetypes. Listen carefully. Remember how the hive mind works. Every human being and animal is connected to the earth, and we have our own grid high above the planet. Remember, size, distance, and time are all illusion. In the US and Australia, when they conducted tests in troubled suburbs, they brought in 1,700 people who thought positive, meditated, prayed, and chanted, and found that the trouble had stopped and people in the surrounding areas were peaceful. This is part of the 100th monkey phenomena, and let me assure you, this phenomenon is real. This is why the cabal bought out all the media to fully control the human grid and program the whole population at once. Let's look what they did in Australia to bring football and sport into the collective consciousness in that part of the world. With the help of people like the Murdoch media empire, through television, radio, and newspaper to put sport on the front page of newspapers instead of important news, have now, through this grid connection, affected the collective consciousness of this side of the world. The cabal can now go by its business looting the wealth of the country.
Sport, well, that's why I moved. The pathological promotion of sport within the collective consciousness of the culture, I just simply find offensive, to tell you the truth. You can't turn a TV on in this country without seeing some thick-necked, bone-headed wombat talking about what he did with a ball. I'm like, shut up, mate. I'm not fucking interested.
Their mission was to dumb down the general public by entertaining them at a kindergarten level and program the masses with propaganda based on lies. The general public are unaware of this. They are walking around in a comatose, trance state of mind. This is happening all over the world. Of course, this dumbing down of societies was not only achieved by media, but with the help of the education system, the political, religious, and pharmaceutical companies, and the agricultural sector. Rockefeller once stated, "We could not have done this takeover without the help of our media and newspaper friends." Like a giant octopus, and its tentacles working together worldwide on every level that you could possibly imagine to achieve this global domination by the cabal. The third warning. The cabal have been trying desperately to program disasters to occur through subliminal and suggestive programming. In 2014, the biggest energy ritual took place simultaneously in front of 500,000 million unsuspected souls worldwide using the power of television. Televised was the Bible story, played over consecutive nights with all its subliminal and black magic attachments. The Christ consciousness is coming. On the last night, right after the Bible story, they televised Wait for it, Poseidon, god of the sea, earthquakes and storms. The world is in total disharmony on every scale imaginable. This is causing negative energy to manifest. Chemtrails, HAARP, deforestation and fracking are also causing earthquakes and strange weather around the world. What scientists around the world are seeing are the end results of energy manifesting into, for example, sun activity and EMP bursts. Quakes are increasing, but scientists aren't sure what it means. No, it's not your imagination. The Los Angeles area is feeling more earthquakes this year. Earthquake experts said 2014 is clearly a year of increased seismic activity. The recent string of quakes suggests that a larger one is on the way. Remember how 9/11 came about? In Disclosure 4, it talked about the magic sigil markers printed on the money. Did you know they did the same magic ritual in 2012 through the Apple iPhone? I did a video on it, but no one took notice. Now, understand this. The controlled media programming being telecasted around the world is affecting the hive mind in such a way that people around the planet are thinking almost identical thoughts, especially about war, destruction, and disaster that we are all anticipating. It will happen. In fact, everyone from all walks of life and every professional without realizing it are making this happen, using subliminal suggestive language. This is taken from davidicke.com. We are here to create a revolution unlike any that has gone before. A conscious awareness tsunami that will sweep the planet and shake our modern world to its very core. Can you see? It's saying one thing, and at the same time, subliminally linked to mean another thing. It's everywhere. Look around, and you will see it. Worldwide, the weather is going crazy. California's drought is the worst for 1,200 years, but worse is to come, warn scientists. Volcanoes. The number of volcanoes that are erupting continues to rise, and scientists cannot seem to explain why this is happening. In 2013, we witnessed the most volcanic eruptions worldwide that we have ever seen in a single year, and this increased activity has carried over into 2014. In recent months, we have seen major volcanoes roar to life in Russia, Peru, Hawaii, Reunion Island, Indonesia, and all over Alaska. It is highly unusual for so many volcanoes to be erupting at the same time. According to Volcano Discovery, a whopping 34 volcanoes are erupting around the globe right now. Chemtrails are appearing all over the world, some on daily and a weekly basis. I have personally witnessed many chemtrails activities in the past decade and plasma activity in the skies. I have been sent emails from around the world, including Australia, the Philippines, and right here in the US, stating that before a freakish storm, chemtrails have been seen in the skies. Today, we can specifically define these chemical trails as illegal geoengineering operations. There are many types of chemtrails. Some cause a forced desertification of some areas. Some cause floods and heavy rain. Some are used with smart dust, and others are used to counteract stealth activities. Within a decade, the Earth's climate has been a chaotic set of artificial phenomena. Controlling the atmospheric phenomena means the domination of the world's economy and resources. I highly recommend you watch the documentary Chemtrails: The Secret War. Not only is our health, but enormous resources confiscated from the general population are at stake. Chemtrails in each country costs around $20 million a day alone. Coming out of the crippling taxes enforced on the people are bleeding the wealth out of every country. The European Union and some political parties fund and train indoctrinated people to misinform you on websites and social networks. If we fail to stop these criminal operations, we can expect extreme weather conditions to take place with all the damage they might cause. We can especially expect an exponential increase in diseases. NASA is hiding a lot of things about space.
There's no energy, actually. You can't, most of it you can't even measure in outer space or see.
You can't see.
No, you can't see the sun in free space.
So the sun is not visible in outer space?
Not in free space. It's only invisible when gross matter becomes involved, like the Earth's atmosphere and envelope and the surface of the moon or whatever. That makes the light. Otherwise, there is no light. You can see the moon, you can see the Earth, but you can't see the sun or you can't see the stars.
But you can see the planets and the satellites.
Right. You can see material objects, but you cannot see the sources of light. There is no light until there's a material object.
To reflect off.
So that means there's no time delay. So the whole time delay thing is meaningless. It doesn't take light years. There are no light years because there's no light. So that means that the light you see from the distant stars isn't 4 million years old. It could be only minutes old.
From the ABC, Tasmanian police and firefighters are unable to explain the source of a beam of light which reportedly fell from the sky and formed a circle of fire in a Hobart suburb. These strange beams of light have been reported from other places around the world. Could they be starting fires with laser beams from space platforms? But why? A distraction from world events? Virgin Galactic. On October 31, 2014, Virgin Galactic suffered a serious accident during a Spaceship Two test flight, resulting in the loss of the spacecraft. One pilot died in the crash, while another suffered injuries. NASA is hiding a lot of things about space. They don't want the public going up there. Space Shuttle Challenger.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
Challenger, go with throttle up. 1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Australia confirms that giant plasma tubes are floating above Earth. Astronomers have for the first time captured visual evidence of the existence of tubular plasma structures in the inner layers of the magnetosphere surrounding the Earth. For over 60 years, scientists believed these structures existed, but by imagining them for the first time, we've provided visual evidence that they are really there. The region of space around the Earth occupied by its magnetic field, called the magnetosphere, is filled with plasma created by the atmosphere being ionized by sunlight. The innermost layer of the magnetosphere is the ionosphere, and above that is the plasma sphere. They are embedded with a variety of strangely shaped plasma structures, including the tubes. Crop circles. The crop circle phenomena is another form of consciousness manipulation of the mindset of those desirous of an intervening savior that will redeem us from the horrific future we all now foresee. The idea of alien intervention or earth energies producing the mathematically precise geometries that have appeared over the past 25 years. A geometer will tell you how difficult and time-consuming just drawing these constructs on paper becomes, let alone the surveying skills and time required to lay them out in the landscape. They are far too complex and intricate for the guys from the pub to produce with boards and string in the few hours of darkness they have in summertime. Some folks have claimed to have seen glowing orbs flying around fields in the darkness and producing crop circles as they passed. One YT video shows this in action, but could be and likely is fake. All the information indicates that in each crop circle, the bend in the stalk occurs at the first knuckle joint above the ground, which appears to observers to have burst open as the stalk was bent. There has been no explanation offered for this phenomenon. However, that doesn't account for the stray stalks from a different crop, unless the process is generated by a frequency-specific microwave or laser beam that can be programmed to the specific and calculable resonant frequency of the knuckle joint of the target crop at that stage of its growth. The beam can also be programmed to draw precisely the specific diagram of the crop circle without error in quite short time, with a number of pre-programmed passes which heat and disrupt the stalk, causing it to fall in the chosen direction. This technique is virtually identical to stage laser shows, which produce images from a single laser source deflected by a rapidly moving mirror run by a computer program. Obviously, if that were the case, the stray stalks, which would have a different resonant frequency to the main crop, would be untouched and left standing. Problem solved, other than deciding where the laser platform is and whose agenda it's operating on. We will leave that up to you to decide, but I'll tell you there's been several set precisely on the 33rd degree between Stonehenge and Avebury in the UK, one of them having 33 loops around its perimeter. So I'm pretty sure the perpetrators aren't aliens or angels, since the 33rd degree isn't a resonance. It's a man-made lay, used as a metaphorical mathematical transition into the pi grid system, which Stonehenge and Avebury provide, being key frequency markers for the resonance system. So, if you want to point a finger, look up. NASA's job isn't just traveling in space. It's primarily satellites, which will eventually monitor and eventually control all of us. That's their real job, alongside mobile cell towers. These satellites and mobile cell towers will not only track you, but can beam signals to affect your mood, like sad, happy, sexual arousal, or even put you to sleep.
So they won't do business with me. Well, my little storm will take care of that. If there's no market, make one. The old law of supply and demand. And now, they'll have to come to me. First, I'll give them a little food, just enough to whet their appetite, then a little bit more, and finally, they'll trade me what I want.
The Flat Earth Theory. I think this whole debate has been conjured up by our disinfo friends trying to screw with folks' heads. The flat contradicts the pyramid's model of precession of the equinoxes. There's also the problem of Canopus moving below the horizon at Giza and successive capitals moving south over time to keep it on the horizon as the equinoctial marker. There is also spherical Earth Kabbalistic geometry and spherical navigation, which still works for everyone, and how geosynchronous satellites stay in place without Newtonian physics. The Bedford Level experiment is a series of observations carried out along a 6-mile length of the old Bedford River on the Bedford Level, Norfolk, England, during the 19th and early 20th centuries. It was an attempt to determine the shape of the Earth. Early results seemed to prove the Earth to be flat, but later attempts to reproduce the observations firmly support that the Earth is a sphere. The observed target was seen at 6.5 miles, from which they claimed that the 5.5-mile limit was debunked. They forgot about atmospheric refraction, which is why we see the sun 5 minutes before it actually comes over the horizon, and why the Giza pyramids are 0.028 degrees south of 30 degrees north, so as to correct for refraction and record a true astronomical 30 degrees north. Plus, all the math at Giza is describing spherical geometry from the masters. This is a 3-dimensional world, where the number 3 is repeated endlessly throughout this illusory plane. Why? Because 3D causes everything to have a believability perspective when perceived by our 5 senses, or a pyramid triangular trajectory. This is why the triangle pyramid is the strongest symbol or shape associated with this mindset. How frequently does this triangular symbolism show up? Quite simply, everything 3D is actually suggesting a triangle formation in extremely subtle and subliminal fashion. This is called the vanishing point. The vanishing point of the 3D illusion. When looking at a row of buildings, for example, even if the buildings are all the same shape and size, the one at the end of the row will appear much smaller than the one closest to you. The vanishing point creates a triangular-shaped trajectory. Let's look at string theory. Physicists Randall and Sundram created a model of brains in which the visible universe is a brain incorporated in a bigger universe, just like a piece of seaweed floats in the ocean. Ordinary matter is attached to this brain. The usual particles like electrons and protons can only exist on this brain. We humans will not be able to enter other dimensions because the particles that form our bodies, electrons, protons, neutrons, remain attached to this brain that constitutes our world. With his thought, though, man can freely move wherever he wants. This is because thought is not dense matter, it is energy, But then again, through this extremely restricting brain, this thought is encaged. The possibilities of the human brain are very limited. Strange computer code discovered concealed in superstring equations. Exactly what I said in Holographic Disclosure 2 about the codes, the information structure.
It's New York City. It's March 7th.
Well, partly it's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues here have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web.
You're saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers.
That is correct. So
wait, I have to just be silent for a minute here. So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos
that occur in string theory and in general in systems that we can say are supersymmetric. Some of those codes are showing on the screen behind you right now. They don't look like codes, but these pictures, which we call adinkras, are graphical representations of sets of equations that are based on codes. That in the description of our universe, that is a supersymmetrical universe, which we were going to test in the LHC. If you believe that description, I can show you the presence of these codes. That's my statement.
There is more than meets the eye with the codes. These codes hold all sort of information, even karma, which is built into the matrix. Everything is recorded in these codes. The 6,000-year-old health secrets will go into this, and the certain rules one has to follow in order to live life according to universal laws. Are we really made up of light? Biophotons show that we are made of light. A biophoton, or ultra-weak photon emission, UPE, is a kind of light particle that is emitted by all living things. Though it exists in the visible and ultraviolet spectrum, in order for us to see it, our eyes would have to be about 1,000 times more sensitive. While we can't see them with our eyes alone, technology has given us a glimpse, and what it's shown us may have a profound impact on us all. Biophotons have a much larger role to play when it comes to our physiology, and quite possibly our consciousness as well. Experiments are showing that biophotons, or UPEs, can be captured and stored inside of cells, and can even travel through our nervous system, suggesting that biophotons provides a way for cells to transfer energy and communicate information. Dark matter. Space is the construct that gives the illusion that there are separate objects. Scientists today have detected through quantum physics a finer form of matter encompassing the densely material universe. They call this matter dark matter. They call it dark because it is thinner, subtler, and thus not visible to your physical eyes. The dark matter is precisely the etheric plane, the ether template of all that exists in the visible universe and all that is constructed in order to later materialize. The Baphomet is secretly a presentation of this template. Eliphas Levi stated that ritual magic utilized the existence of what he called the astral light, defined as a natural and divine agent, at once corporeal and spiritual, a universal plastic mediator, a common receptacle for vibrations of movement and images of form, a fluid and a force which may be called, in a sense at least, the imagination of nature. It was this agent which reflected the magician's will, expressed during a ritual, and actualized it into existence. Most mediums, as well as prophets, sneaking a peek at this plane or dimension, can prophesy what is to come, because it happens in the etheric plane first. The tabernacle which is above, expressed down here below, or as above, so below. Everything that exists is present in the two parallel worlds at once. This is the multiverse, and the evidence are anomalies in background radiation. This could be the first hard evidence for other universes. Dipolar gravity implicates that everything which exists is present in the two parallel worlds at one time. The electron has a twin particle identical to it, but with an opposite electric charge. It would be like its mirror image, called an anti-electron or positron. Antiparticles, when created in the laboratory, live for a short time before they crash into normal particles and are annihilated. This means that when the electrons, protons and neutrons which make our world were created, a lot of their twins were also made. So, where exactly are they? And where did they go?
What seems to happen is that particles appear and disappear all the time. So where do they go when they're not here? Now, that question is tricky. I'm going to give you two answers. Answer number one, they go into an alternative universe where the people in that universe are asking the same question about those particles when they come into our universe. They say, where do they go?
Scientists are hard at work on this mystery at a place called CERN. CERN is a giant particle accelerator machine built to find the anti-world and its inhabitants. CERN's location is in Switzerland. A lawsuit that was filed in a U.S. federal court seeks the suspension of the experiment, which, according to the plaintiffs, may lead to the creation of a dark hole or some form of dark matter capable to swallow the entire planet or even the entire universe. CERN was also operating in secrecy at the time. It was reportedly closed by black ops scientists working on other secret experiments. The black op scientists have more knowledge disclosed to them than your everyday scientists, having also more grants and endless amounts of money. There are rumors that the fifth dimension of the parallel energy universes, which they shall call the new golden age of Krita or Satya Yuga, was found, and that starship arcs, which will help them escape to a new beginning. The evacuation of the planet is a model which appears dynamically from ever more groups that communicate with non-visible entities. After 80 years of painstaking experimentation, scientists have directly observed a subatomic particle that is its own antiparticle. The breakthrough promises a leap forward in quantum computing and potentially shows the path to finding dark matter. The particles are called the Majorana fermions, after the Italian scientist who proposed their existence back in 1937. Now a team led by Professor Ali Yazdani of Princeton University and his team, which included colleagues from University of Texas, Austin, seem to have pinpointed the particle in an experiment that required months of careful adjustments, a 2-story tall microscope floating in an ultra-low vibration lab at the campus, and an environment of almost absolute cold. The experiment not only confirms that the world indeed works the way quantum physicists thought it did, but has potential for practical applications in quantum computing. The true Kabbalah, which is the Egyptian Ka-ba-Ankh, teaches very powerful four-dimensional meditations where specific chants, tones, and vibrations are applied to various aspects of the soul. The ancient Egyptians understood harmonics and the waveforms of the universe. Temples and chambers were built by the ancient brotherhoods in order to amplify the lights, sounds, and frequencies. This was to manipulate the vibratory resonance within the temples. DMT, the plants of the gods. Teacher plants opens your third eye. The blue lily of the Nile, also known as the sacred lotus of Egypt, was grown by the brotherhood and used in rituals. Mandragora officinarum salvia, frank incense. Seeds of siren rue and ayahuasca. Many herbs and plants that were used by the ancients, as well as today's shamans, that opens the gateway to the astral world, contain a substance called dimethyltryptamine, or DMT for short. DMT has been described as the spirit molecule because it appears in hallucinogenic plants, also naturally occurs in the human brain. The effects of DMT often creates a so-called out-of-body experience, where the astral body can leave the physical body and explore the universe. DMT also teaches you spirit liberation. The most abundant supply of plants containing DMT are in the rainforests of South America. The Illuminati corporations are destroying the rainforests. Egyptian royalty would perform secret rituals in the chambers of the pyramids whilst ascending to heaven. They would also revitalize every cell in the whole body and revamp their souls, at the same time having the ability to access other dimensions and astral planes through the power of thought. This would also make them very smart and creative, sharpening their awareness levels and having access to the universal mind and higher knowledge. Communicating with the universal mind directly is not done with language, but with sacred geometry, archetypes. Mathematics is the language with which God has written the universe, said Galileo Galilei. This is done automatically in the mind's eye when one reaches perfection, the perfection of spirit and perfection of pure thought and pure love. Love is the chemical reaction in the brain that allows one to reach this purity of thought. When we say love, we don't mean loving your dog or your partner, which is all good, but we are talking pure love with everything around you in addition to pure thought. This is extremely difficult to achieve in this day and age with this diverse culture all around us, operating in the lower vibration density with the upper chakras switched off and lying dormant. Now, do you understand why the Cabal are doing what they're doing? They don't want you to achieve this perfection, otherwise their power is finished. They want you to remain arrogant and wait for salvation from an outside source, hence the Savior programs. They have everyone on the hook. 70% of the population is waiting for salvation from a religious character. The rest are waiting for UFOs and aliens from a galaxy far, far away, or maybe interdimensional beings that will save the day. Another group have been turned into atheists, believing only in science, not knowing that their logo represents the Godhead. The remainder commit suicide, some in confusion of no hope in life, and some intoxicated by the Cabal's medical mafia. But everybody in this life pays a price. Don't let these New Age chills tell you otherwise. The New Age movement was financed by Rockefeller to hijack and control the awakening taking place across the planet. Hence the fact that there is a lot of confused people involved in this New Age movement. Within this dimension we dwell, it operates on a dualistic system which has certain laws to follow. The results of your actions are automatically ruled by the punishing mechanisms of moral laws, in a similar way that the flow of water is ruled by the laws of gravity.
It is, of course, the way of all things. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only real truth. Causality. Action, reaction. Cause and effect.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
The elite don't just want to lose their power here, but also want you to reincarnate back again in the same ignorance that you left. Death doesn't cure ignorance. The question is, what stage are you in right now? You will never reach heaven after death. That is a well-known fact within the inner circles. Ascending to heaven can only be reached whilst we are still alive. The perfection of the heart must be achieved to pass to the next vibratory level and stargate. If you think that you will reincarnate thousands of times over, think again. You are only given a certain amount of lives in which to learn and get with the plan. Afterwards, the soul is scrapped. So, avoid death at all costs. Otherwise, you will start again. Although energy never dies, it sure can be recycled. So what are the implications of this? Well, due to your psychical laziness in thinking and going along with the nature by not changing it, you're severely punished for breaking those laws. The concept of reincarnation is yet another creation of the Matrix to keep consciousness in a cycle of enslavement while it believes it progresses through experiences.
I want to tell you something, Mark. Something you do not yet know. The universe will expand, then it will collapse back on itself, and then it will expand again. It will repeat this process forever. What you don't know is that when the universe expands again, everything will be as it is now. Whatever mistakes you make this time around, you will live through on your next pass. Every mistake you make, you will live through, again and again. So my advice to you is to get it right this time around, because this time is all you have.
Religion has turned sinning into a fiasco. Actual sins are a misconception and fabrication of the real universal laws. The Illuminati love putting hints in their movies. There are several reasons for this. 1 is programming future events. 2, mind controlling the masses. And 3 is that they must tell you first what they're up to. During the first Christian years, when the teachings had not yet been corrupted, everyone knew that reincarnation with its complementary karma was the principal process of imprisonment of the celestial man into the kingdom of the fallen God Creator. The fallen God Creator is us falling from grace, not some devil, but inspired by demonic thinking entities. The very demands of his survival in this fallen state teaches man craftiness, lying, and deception. Otherwise, others will survive against him. The Cabal have built their empire on this very construct. The construct of dog eat dog, greed, lust, power by material gain, and placing money as the godhead of society. We have now become a parasitic society, parasiting on each other, going against universal laws on every level imaginable. All the teachers throughout the ages have placed some of these teachings of science for all to see, in allegories, some in paintings, some in codes, and some in architecture. Why? One was to avoid detection from the Inquisition of the days, some kept by secret organizations. The rest have been watered down and corrupted, with bits and pieces remaining somewhere in between. Everything is coming out now into the open for those who have eyes to see. So why did the ancients channel language? Before the fall from grace, man communicated telepathically.
In your mind you have capacities, you know, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to sing.
Let's quickly look at the word God. In the Disclosure series, it claimed there is no God, and of course there isn't. We're talking about the God of dogma, the revengeful, bloodthirsty, and racist God that was created in the minds of men to control the docile masses. Let's look at the word God, spelled backwards. It spells dog, referring to the dog star Sirius in the constellation Canis Major, the greater dog or the top dog. We are not being blasphemous. We're merely pointing this fact out and its association with the English language and its subliminal attachment that was purposely devised. Heaven is a code word for the seventh chakra. We have all heard the term seventh heaven. God is a code word for ourselves, and also the word gods is a code for the chakras in many ancient texts. Hell is a code word for the base chakra, also known as the lower world, where the scorching hot Kundalini serpent lies dormant. The story of the creation in the book of Genesis is another allegory. God creates the universe in 7 days. On the 7th day he rested. Those of us who are educated know once the Kundalini serpent has ascended through the 6 chakras and passed through the 3 knots. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. These verses regarding the 2 great lights symbolize the heart chakra, where heaven and earth meet. Now, don't get the God of dogma mixed up with the source, universal intelligence. This source, or the original thought form, sits enthroned in every human heart that the inmost spirit of each man is part. Every element that exists on this planet is part of the human body.
The power of the One extends beyond this world. It reaches from here all the way back to where it came from.
Where?
The source.
Entities were created to help to unravel the unknown from the black vastness of knowledge. They were allowed to use the counter matter to think for themselves, similarly to the Godhead, but being bound to reality which was created. Demon. The word originally meant a supernatural being of Greek mythology, intermediate between gods and men, a thing of divine nature. The meaning was later changed by the Church to mean evil and so on. Thought forms are different. As explained in Holographic Disclosure 8, there are many, many types, but most are made by us, fixating on a thought. Hence, why the Cabal created archetypes of characters and events, so your thoughts are fixated on them. Then they channel that energy for themselves. The Illuminati also knows how to create their own thought forms to do their bidding, and kept them alive through worship that feed off emotional energy. Interdimensional thought form entities are also different. They have kept these universal secrets away from the masses and made them occult. There is a war going on in heaven. This is the real meaning, the struggle that is happening in the astral planes between demons, which are the Godhead's own entities, and the creation of energy thought forms created by the Cabal. They are very powerful as they are kept alive by human and animal misery. This requires much study to fully comprehend these natural, universal phenomena. The desire to rule for selfish gratification has been the curse of the world. For countless ages, kings and lords have drenched the earth with blood in their battles to extend their dominions, not to seek more life for all, but to get more power for themselves. Today, the main motive in the business and industrial world is the same. Men marshal their armies of dollars and lay waste the lives and hearts of millions in the same mad scramble for power over others. War is big business and very profitable. The Cabal's agents are behind World War I and II and trying desperately to start a Middle East war that will lead to bigger conflict, possibly World War III. They are also behind every other conflict and staged planned events that you could possibly think of. Even the invasion of Tibet was for the purpose of destroying spiritual knowledge. Tibet has been isolated from religious infestation due to its geographical location in the treacherous Himalayan mountains, and it's being closed to outsiders. The same methods used by the Inquisition are used by the communists upon those who are suspected or have been found guilty of any spiritual practices who have this knowledge. As shown earlier, it is not the Chinese, the Russians, the Cubans who are behind communism, but the Illuminati cabal. Iraq. There were many ancient temples and relics buried beneath the sands of Iraq that were proof of the origins of humanity. Whether they are still there given the invasion is unknown. American and British GIs were given the go-ahead from the top brass to destroy and/or loot whatever they pleased from the Iraqi museums. Saddam Hussein was also working on restoring the ancient Ashurbanipal Library, which was the earliest known collected and catalogued library in the world. The texts therein originated before the flood. British archaeologists in the mid-19th century at Nineveh excavated some 25,000 cuneiform tablets assembled by King Ashurbanipal, which nearly all of them are now in the British Museum. The cabal power structure works relentlessly to destroy our civil rights and freedoms so they can enslave us all. Their greed knows no bounds. The USA is the last power on this earth that still has some laws protecting freedom of speech and the press. If the USA goes down, any smaller countries that are somewhat free will also go down and be under the yoke of cabal control. Short analysis on the present day, looking at both angles. Here lies the big question. Will there be World War III? Some claim there will be no World War III, but the very wealthy are about to be exposed for their trickery and treachery, including vast amounts of wealth based on commodity and cash that has no value. This will impact the 1% with trickle-down effects from their losses, But when the corporations and the associated elite lose control of the global banking syndicate, that is the loss of wealth that is being referred to, and not the rest of us. According to Professor Winston Schrute, the Federal Reserve Syndicate lost their banking charter on December 31, 2013. I have asked a dozen bank tellers to show me a $20 bill with a 2014 or later date on it, and after they flip through a stack of them, they do not exist. October the 20th is the doomsday, when all this is scheduled to go down. Will the Pentagon, through Obama, commence to deploy all that he has set up during the past 7 years, knowing that his opposition will be minimized during this time? Obama might just have a card to play in, leveling the playing field, and will upset the apple cart before he goes. The US dollar, currently with a street value of $1, though a real value of 4 cents, will be converted into a new currency, and many wealthy people will lose a great deal of wealth because the derivatives will be flatlined by this action. A shift in currency does not steal the wealth, but simply transfer it as long as it's real, and it will provide a new foundation, likely in gold and silver, thus the mad rush, which will further marginalize the games that bankers have played since 1971, when they forced Nixon at gunpoint to remove the gold standard in the US. There has been no real money since that time. The conversion will actually increase wealth for the 99%. How will this be done? Speculating that the USA, not the US, will be joining the BRICS coalition and turning its back on the Rothschild Vatican cabal financially, politically, and legally, including the repeal of canon law statutes. The USA will be in a position to retake its national sovereignty or state-level sovereignty. The state-level control has been in play for a couple of years via the Constitutional Convention that, once convened, will have more authority than the federal government, including the power to dissolve the executive office, the IRS, the Federal Reserve, etc. USA foreign policy and military action are being controlled outside of the executive office through intelligence agencies, controlled via the Vatican and Switzerland, private corporations, the UN, and likely NATO, who literally pose as US soldiers, must be explained away by Obama rather than to admit he's not in control. Of course, we are speculating, as no one knows exactly how the story will end. The USA infrastructure is still very strong. What has been stolen is the creativity, human rights, production, and jobs, and nearly every dime paid in taxes and retirement funds. China promised President Obama in early 2009 that if he gets rid of the secret government, plus 3 other tasks, remove Fed Reserve, modify the IRS, and release all patents since 1900, according to the late Chris Story, they will kickstart the USA economy with $6 trillion. If the Rothschilds and the Zionists are the target, then there may actually be a chance of economic restructuring with their elimination. But it still comes down to who are the good guys, and what lengths will the bad guys go as a last-ditch attempt to keep control. World War III? No doubt, which will be total annihilation on both sides. Rumor has it the manufacturers included remote kill switches on all nukes. Yeah, right. Nuclear. Hope you have watched Holographic Disclosure 11. The real, immediate problem will be how do we survive the inevitable economic collapse that's overdue? If the transition from one economy to another model isn't pre-planned to be smooth, then we're in for a nightmare of the worst kind. The first stage of that is the collapse of commerce, basically no food supplies being delivered. That's where the rioting begins, in the cities with too many mouths and no shops open. If the power grid also goes down as a consequence of that payment delivery problem, then we are doomed. Who gets to turn it back on? And lastly, Jade Helm. Alex Jones said that the activities will be carried out in states that agree to this. California would never agree. I suspect Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas also would not agree. Nobody has agreed to this according to every blog I have seen. The military, which again begs the question if it's federal or private, will be operating on federal land, if at all. The International Maritime Organization are testing public reaction and trying to justify real ground troops. But few people even believe the media anymore. Jones is right that the elite are making their move. But I maintain that the soldiers and police have families too. If forced to continue to act against their own people for reasons caused by those giving the commands, in a short time they will turn their guns on the commanders. The elite have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Researchers also know where all their underground facilities are located. Could they have their stargates and UFOs ready for a quick departure? Or are the 1% doomed? It all comes back to Rome, Israel and Switzerland taking the fall, but that's what the prophecies all point to. A new Jerusalem. Those who control us know the truth. They have for millennia, and it's their karma to bring about those biblical prophecies which were written by their ancestors. But there is no royal road to geometry, as Euclid said. Kings are not priests, and the priests were destroyed with the Druids when Rome came back to Britain, as a charade to subdue the truth of nature, the goddess. This game has a long history, and folks behind it all with old knowledge of what this reality is. They're the ones we have to trust to do the right thing at this time, but whatever that is, I don't know. Is humanity the problem? Are we too many? We probably are. Can we survive what's coming without conflict? I very much doubt it. All we can do is live our lives and keep our ears to the ground and be ready for anything. So is the other half of the secret known? I sit alone at the portal, the gateway to heaven.